See this area here, all of the channel is called Coburn Sound. But before the whitefellas came, the Noongar named this Derbil Nara because it was a great big estuary, and Noongars hunted and gathered here. And Rottnest, what Wadjemup means, is the place on the other side of the river, because it was joined somewhere over here. And the Noongars would walk from Rockingham over Garden Island, over Mulliamaya, which is Karnak, and then they'd hit Tower Rocks and the stragglers, and they could walk into the west end of Rotto. And that's how they came here.
This is when sea level was different?
Sea level was different.
Yeah.
That was 7,000 years ago when the sea levels changed. So from over the mainland, Rottnest was called place on the other side of the river. That's what Wajum means, Wajum. And they could come here. Then 7,700 years ago, the warming came. And over in Sweden, they got back 100 metres of land around Gothberg and all that. And over here, the ocean rose 5 to 6 metres. So we lost a land bridge from Rockingham to Rottnest. So for 7,000 years, I don't believe anyone was able to come here because of the tides. And what's that bloke doing there? And so that's all part of that history. But this was called the Derbil Nara. And I only found out about the warming about 25 years ago when I was doing some culture with the Harbour and Lights people who were doing some stuff, surveys and that down around the south coast. And I saw a big map that the bloke had on the wall, and I asked him what that map was. And he said, oh, that's the warming. And I said, can you tell me about it? He said, yep. So he told me about it. And he told me about the warming and how the ocean rose. And I said, you know, it answered a lot of questions. Because Noongars were hunting and gathering out here in the Derbil Nara. And they gave names to whales, sharks, dolphins, even though the dolphins were in the river. But there was some fish like the little garfish. You know what a guard is? Mm-hmm. The garfish is a fish about that long. He's a skinny, long, beautiful eating fish. But I've never ever caught one in the Swan River. They don't go into the river. So when you told me that story, I said, you know, you've answered some questions now because the Noongars named the garden.
Oh, you right? That was a stunt.
We won't do that again
No.
in a hurry.
Or maybe he will.
No?
Maybe he will.
Okay.
No, he's riding down the street.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nothing broken?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's when the warming took place. And we lost contact to come over here because Noongars weren't good sailors and they weren't good boat builders. I don't recall them ever building a boat. So if they wanted to cross the river, they'd take the grass tree, you know, the Australian grass tree, the belga, they'd go and look for the heart of that, and they'd float across the river in that, or a log. And
That's a big grass tree. Like
grass
a
trees.
person.
Grass trees are big. And then I can
The
take
ones
you,
over here are really big.
I can show you grass trees that are 5,000 years old, and they're 7 or 8 metres tall.
Wow. Oh, your photo.
You fellas know what a grass tree is, eh?
Yeah. So on my country, ours grow 1 centimetre a year, and they're skinnier than
No,
your
yeah,
ones.
you got the king eyes. But we got here, our ones,
Yeah.
they call them belgas, or a yorlok, or a kurup. Ballanooks are the king eyes, and they grow 1 metre every 75 years.
Wow.
And I just put one in my place, I'll show you a photo of it. I reckon that this one is 500 years old. You can have a look at it. Now, what happened to it? I lost it. It's got 6 heads. My grass tree.
Is that a haircut?
Yeah, no, we've got it. That's the only way you'll get them to regrow. They get cut their hair. But see, those Mindari, which the Noongars call the leaves, they've grown that much in 3 weeks. So it's in a healthy position.
Amazing. Anyone else want to?
So grass trees are mainly sort of from around the west coast here, the south coast, and they're very slow growing. But I can take and show you some that are this round, 7 metres tall. But I reckon they said, someone said they're 2,000. I said they're more like 5,000 because it's an old gnarly tree, and you got to protect them, and so that's what's being done. So the Noongars would have walked, going back 7,000 years from down Rockingham, see, they would have walked around and got down to Point Perrin, where the Neville, where the bridge goes across, and then they would come across and walked across Island at low tide, and that ceased 7,700 years ago. And, it only started again when the whitefellas came, about 1833. Aboriginal people were getting arrested and charged for no reason and being sent from all over Western Australia down to the Roundhouse in Freo, where their names were documented, and then they were put on a rowboat and sent across to the island. So we don't know how many lost their lives rowing over here. So when they came here, they were here with the sailors and the soldiers, and Henry Vincent was the head honcho here, and so the Noongars and the early soldiers built all these buildings, these ones here, and down here, and in the old buildings in and around the settlement, and they not only lived in them, but later they became the mortuaries for the dead deceased who died here, and they were put in the ceilings. And there's one occasion where they were left for 10 days and the bodies were rotting before they took them out and buried them. And can you make it, Julie, to the burial site? It's a couple 100 metres.
Oh, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, we'll go over there and I'll show you the burial sites. And back in 97, 98, we brought the radar probes over here, and we located all the burials. And they're all given proper burials. But what we don't know is how many Noongars Henry Vincent killed, because he was a rogue. And now we've taken down anything that had Henry Vincent's name on, we've taken it off. And I was going to throw them in the ocean, but I think the Rottnest Siren Authority got them. Because they're typical of the white fellow, they need the history. Noongars don't, we don't need it. Because our history goes back to the Ice Age, that they called that muting time, see? What did you fellas call it? To the Ice Age?
I don't know the word for it.
So our name was called a muting, is the cold time. And it goes right back. Because what the white fellas couldn't understand is, when the Noongars were talking about muting time and telling the stories of it, they then wrote down that the muting time, they wrote down, that was the dream time. Because they said that most of the time they talked, it was like talking dream. Because they didn't know anything. Yeah.
They just didn't know it was
They had no,
reality of
no
the
idea.
climate.
And it's like today, they thought we were all the same. We're not all the bloody same. And Albanese, he's trying to say, we're all the same by having a voice. So we had a bit of a conversation about it on the way over. And I definitely disagree what they're trying to do, and I'll just leave it there because in Australia there's 350 language groups, depending on which university you study. And they go between 265 and 350. And I think there's about 125 lost languages in there that are no longer around because we lost them. And then you add the dialects, and there's 750 dialects in Australia. So, you know, ever since whitefellas first arrived over there at the Maritime Museum, and Noongar's told them, you know, we're Noongars, that people and the Wadjemup still believe that we're all the same. And we all talk one language, we all talk one culture. You've never been so far from being wrong, ever. And I spent all my life trying to correct it and say, you know, we're not the same. And sometimes I upset people. I don't care, because our old people never had a say. They were hit over the head and told, you can't talk about that. They were given no option to talk about where Perth was built, what roads were going to be built, where they could build them. They had none. So they had no say whatsoever in relation to the development. And, you know, they give us a $3 billion land rights thing, and I objected to that. And I said to them that this is worth $10 billion. And they said, oh, how can you prove that? So I worked for the Deputy Premier. So I told him, I jumped in the car one day and drove out to around Mosman Park, Peppermint Grove, and every place I saw a house for sale, I got on the internet and priced it. And within a half a mile radius, I found $3 million worth of houses that were up for sale. So I said, how come you got to the question of how much compensation to $3 billion? And I told all the Noongars, but they reckon getting $3 billion was better than getting nothing. I said I would hang out with the $10 billion. And now they're trying to talk everyone into voting yes. And before I go, I'm going to get a coloured pencil up there and I go back over there, I'm going to write no next to the yes. And see what they say. But this is an old place, and the people who died here, they buried here, and they're from all over Western Australia. They're buried in the burial grounds, and a lot of them, their spirits never had a chance to go back to their homeland, to their country, and be buried. So we've been trying to sort out a truth-telling part here for it to take place in the next 6 months, and part of that will be people coming down from the goldfields, from the Pilbara, the Kimberleys, and come down and take part. But they don't want to, they want the Noongars to lead it. See, so myself, Herbie Profo, the big woolly-haired bloke who was on that video, and Farley, we're dealing with it all and trying to bring it together. So it's pretty hard because, did you see any Noongars on the boat?
No.
You won't find many black people
Steve on the boat.
You won't find them, they don't. The bad spirits around. They say that the spirits of the deceased still roam this land because they haven't gone home. And they can't, you know, blackfella, when he die home, he likes to go home to his own country and be buried in his homeland. But white people still don't understand that either, because they say, oh, we'll bury him at the nearest cemetery. It's not like that. And it's pretty interesting, but the Derbil Nara, This here, it goes down, they call it Coburn Sound now. Goes right down inside of Garden Island, that Noongar's named that Meehan Dip. That's the crocodile. When he wandered down here and never went back. And then you got Karnak Island, that's called Wellspring. That's the home of the in-laws. But some old bloody idiot back in the 50s, he had a house full of tiger snakes and dugongs and everything. And Calm found out about him, so they said, we're coming back tomorrow, we're going to clean your house out. So that night he hired a boat, put all the snakes on it and took them out to Karnak Island. Now you can't go there. The snakes are the most deadliest snakes in the world. And tiger snakes, which grow at Herdeman Lake, they're in the top 3 killers in the world. Not killers, but poisonous. Along with the eastern inland taipan, your country, the tiger snake, and the cobra. And because they call him the fake cobra because he flattens his head too, same as a cobra. But I work up there at Herdeman Lake, and I've learned a lot about tiger snakes. And they're as placid as hell. They won't come near you, they won't even attack you unless you tease them. And when you tease him, and if he strikes and bites you, he'll fill you with 10 times the amount of poison needed to kill 10 people. And you'll die within 3 minutes. So, you know, the stories that I heard from our old people was that when the people were bitten by a tiger snake, they dug a hole in the sand and they laid them in there and immobilised them. And they just found, you know, over the last 20 years that you've got to be immobilised when you get bitten. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what they do now, they lay there and they put the bandage around you. Mm-hmm. And there hasn't been anyone who died. And the only bloke ever to die from being bitten by an inland taipan was the chief scientist. Who said, oh, I wonder what happens when you get bitten by a taipan. And when he was doing his experiments, he put the the inland taipan on his arm and bit him. I think he lasted 1 minute and 29 seconds. He never ever lived to see how it affected him, but it had serious. They recorded the effects of that bite. But these snakes over here, the pommy bloke, Deadly 66, what's his name? Steve Dawson? No.
Steve Baxall.
Baxall, that's him. He came over and he came to herdsman and he saw our tigers only grow this long, fully grown. And he couldn't believe how deadly they are for the size. And then we told him stories about if you step on him and if he bites you, it'll be a dry bite. He wouldn't believe it. So 97% of the time, if you sit on him, tread on him, it'll be a dry bite. But the 4% of the time is when he's obviously stirred up and he bites you, that's when he'll kill you. And he went over here when we told him about the Karnak Island. He put tigers and dugongs and that, and now they're this round and they're about 6 foot long. And the seagulls pick their eyes out, so most of them are blind. Oh. And the snakes eat the seagull eggs. So they're all fighting each other. And no one can go there because of these snakes. They should all be collected, killed and destroyed. So people can get access back to Karnak. But people are too lazy to do it, or too afraid. But they're the ones who created that issue. And so that's all Coburn Sound, the Derbil Nara. They hunted because when they hunted and gathered before the warming, the water was only waist deep. And I think that's where we got all the names of all the different fish from there. Yeah. And when they came over here and they built this, and Kingston Barracks where the soldiers stayed, I wouldn't stay in there. Every time they want me to come and stay in, I'd say no. put me up in a new building up here. I'm not staying there. I had a bloke knocking on my door up here at 2 o'clock in the morning. Mr. Collars, Mr. Collars. I said, what's the matter? And he was shivering and shaking. He was in one of the old houses over there, and a spirit come along, chucked him out of the bed, threw him against the door, and when he put the light on, he couldn't see anyone. He said, I'm not sleeping down there. And he came up there and camped, so I put a rug out the front there, and he slept outside. He said, I'm not going back down there. But I hear lots of stories of bad spirits here. That's why we do the welcome and the smoking and the sounds ceremony. So when we do welcome to country, Nunga's here, I'll do it in a minute. And then we have the smoking. Because during the smoking ceremony, we didn't have a religion. Our religion was our heritage and our culture, like every other blackfellow in Australia. And that's where we practice our law, through our heritage and culture. And a lot of people say, oh, blackfellas never had no law. Noongar law was as bad as the bloody white man's law. You know, if you killed someone, you could think that as a result of that, someone in your family is going to get killed within 2 or 3 days. So there'd be one spearing that your family might have nothing to do with, but you might be related to the one who got killed out of Midland. They'll just walk in the middle of the night and put a spear straight in you. And there's lots of history reported of that right across the Noongar country. Because you know, it's reported that Noongars are the oldest nation of people on earth. And we were the last to be discovered 198 years ago. And we were still living in the Stone Age. And we prove that because I teach all the old culture to the kids at schools, including making things out of stone and that. So they all can start to learn it. I learn them language like kaya, means hello. And when I leave, I say Buddha one, that means I'll see you later. And then there's lots of things that I'll teach them about the hands, the head, the eyes, so that they can understand it. So kids now, a lot of kids, when they see me, they'll yell out, Kaya, Mr. Collard, or Buddha one. And it's really good. And when I started off doing that in 2004, I was the only one. And everyone was dubious. Even the teachers, you know, they wouldn't employ me. But over the time, and in 2008, at Herdsman Lake, I did 12,000 students come through there. And from then on, it hasn't looked. I put a website on the computer, and in 4 months, I had 750,000 hits from all over the world. And I never ever thought that I'd make it, but the girl who designed it, she said, I knew this was going to be a huge website. And so I put it on there. And I think over 20 years, I've benefited now because I've got big consultancy I do for Westfield Shopping Centre, putting all Noongar culture in the Booragoon, the Garden City one. And so I'm bringing our culture from where I make wooden message sticks. I'm making them. We're going to make them, and we're going to digitally design them and put all the things on colours along with stories on QR codes. So you can walk through the shopping centre and you can see something, you can stop. Get out! Go on! The crow is bad enough. Any questions?
Yeah, you may not want to answer this, but how do you feel about coming? You're saying Noongar people don't want to come here. How do you feel about coming here?
Well, I've been coming here since I was 12. When we moved from Brookton over the other side to Darling Ranges, we moved down in 1961. And I've been hitchhiking. I used to hitchhike a ride on the old Tamaria and the old ferries. When there's no one looking, we used to jump on and come over to spend the day. And if we were going to spend the night here, we'd just bring bit of canvas and a blanket and sleep on the beach. So I've been coming here, but my grandfather was the minder of Noongar stories, and his name was Tom Bennell. And whenever I came back, he used to smoke and go through the smoking cell and do that. But some of our relations who come and work there had terrible luck because he didn't believe in the culture. And when he'd worked here for 7 years, came back to mainland, his missus left him, his 15-year-old son committed suicide, and 6 months later he died in a car accident. So there's definitely evil spirits attached to him living here. But lots of Aboriginal people won't come. They won't live here, they'll come over every day on the ferry if you work here. So, and now we're trying to keep an eye and develop Rottnest, you know. At the moment you can put 4,000 people on here, that's the maximum that can come. Because the shops can't cater, the ferries can't cater, and they run amok here.
Can I ask a question about the voice, the referendum? Because you mentioned it when you were that you said that you were going to put the no on there.
Yeah,
can you just explain to me what that's? Yeah.
Well, we were talking about it anyway. How can you make one voice when there's 350 different language voices in Australia?
Yeah.
These Queenslanders, you think I care about them? No, they don't care about me.
I care about you.
No, but they got their own. They got their own heritage and culture that they have to struggle and fight with.
Yeah.
And I know Col Dillon real well, you know. And we was in the police force together. Me here and him over there. And it was him who created the inquiry. What do they call it? No.
Stolen generation.
No, the
Bringing them
one.
home.
No, that. Remember all the corrupt cops?
Oh, Fitzgerald.
Fitzgerald inquiry. He was the one who created that. And then they tried to kill him, and then they tried to frame him, but he was too smart for them all. And I was in the police force over here at the time. But I never ever knew that he was the informant till 10, 15 years later, when I saw him in Canberra. And we sat down and talked about it. And I think he might be a couple of years older than me, Colin.
The statement from the heart, I understand that it's all the groups from all over that have got together to
They
create
didn't.
that, or at least the bulk of them.
How many people you reckon went there?
250.
I mean, representatives.
And there's 1 million black fellas in Australia. So they got it wrong, and their culture is totally different to Noongar culture.
Yeah.
Totally different to this girl's culture. And who else is Noongar? Any other Aboriginal people? You know, we're all different. We don't even talk the same language. We got a different culture. And
Well, I was born on Noongar country. I can say that I was born on Noongar country.
whereabouts?
Well, around Freshwater Bay.
Yeah. Along the Derble.
Derble.
Along the
Yeah.
Derble, yeah.
Derble, yeah.
That's the Noongar name for the Swan River. See, the Derble means an estuary, and the Swan River was a big river, and that's why this was called Derble Ngara. It was an estuary that ran down through it where Noongars hunted and gathered.
I had no idea till you told me that this was an estuary. I grew up sort of walking
Yeah.
along the beach along Cottesloe there,
Yep,
and
that's right. People don't know,
no.
they weren't taught that. They
But it
weren't
makes
allowed to.
perfect sense because I live down in Manjagoda country, Benjarat country.
Pinjarra,
Mandurah actually, but yeah. And
Mandurah. You know the road from Mandurah to Fremantle
yeah, I know
is
that one.
called the Mandurah Biddy.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then when you get to the Esplanade, that place, part of the little bottleneck there is called Mandurah also.
yeah.
And Noongars lived there, see? So when the white settlers came, they saw them. Sail in the west end of Rottnest,
Yeah,
the Parmelia, the Sulphur, and the Challenger. And the Challenger and the Parmelia turned to go south to sail down. When they got to Woodman's Point, they ran aground.
Yeah.
And the Parmelia was stuck there for 3 days. So they called that bank now Parmelia Bank. And when the early settlers, they came back 3 days later, and they came back to the mouth of the river, but that was all blocked off. It was one of the most dangerous river mouths in Australia, and it went for about 2 miles back down to Port Beach, and there was limestone heads going out. And when C.Y. O'Connor sat down and had a great decision about building the warfare, he dug out 600,000 tonnes he blew up of limestone, and it's all been planted along the foreshore, from Port Beach down to Leighton Beach. And when we have big storms, it gets washed. And if he would have gone 200 metres to the east of where the Esplanade Hotel is, you could have made the whole thing there without even blowing up one limestone rock. So that was all destroyed, see? And then he built the pipeline in 1903 from Mundaring Weir, from the dam. They built the pipeline to go to Kalgoorlie. You've all been to Kalgoorlie?
Yeah.
When you go there, you've got to go to Mount Charlotte, and you can see the water come running into Mount Charlotte, and you can drink the water from Mundaring. It takes about 6 weeks for it to arrive. And it's there, it's a dead set. You know, I went and worked up there, and I didn't know they had, I forgot about that. Then one Sunday, me and the missus jumped in the car and drove up there. And you know, one of the really beautiful things that I did in Kalgoorlie was to walk up there, up to Mount Charlotte, and have a drink of water that came from Mundaring. And they got big tankers that takes the water from Mundaring, from Kalgoorlie to Forest, and what's that other little place? Cook, on the Nullarbor, yeah, on the railway line, yeah. And they go and pump the water into those big tanks, because when the Indian Pacific gets there to Cook, they have to fill all the water tankers up. So they pump the water out of the tanks into the Indian Pacific. So it's had a far more bigger effect than C.Y. O'Connor ever imagined. But when he finished building it, see, he started off at Mundaring, and then every 15 miles they put a pumping station. Yeah, and so what they should have done was, when they finished the pumping stations, they should open the valve and let the water run to there, and then to the next one, so that when they got up there, when they turned the tap on, water would have come out. But they didn't. They left it closed down here. And when C.Y. O'Connor went up there, because it was a huge thing, people from all over the world came to go to Mount Charlotte to open the pipeline. But when he turned the tap on, nothing happened. And no water came out for 6 weeks. In the meantime, he jumped in with his horse on the train, came back to Fremantle, rode down to South Beach and shot himself.
Oh no, you got to
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And 3 weeks later, the water come out of Kalgoorlie.
Yeah.
But old Noongar's reckon they said no. They pointed the bone at him because he destroyed the river.
Yeah.
And you know, the Swan River went from being 95% fresh water to being 95% salt now. So you can't compare the river from white settlement to now. And
What's the area around Freshwater Bay, what is now known as Freshwater Bay? What's the Noongar name for that particular area? Do you know offhand?
No, there is different names for little sites along there, but around the Freshwater Bay there.
Because that's where I used to play as a kid.
Yeah, no. Well, Noongars would have been playing there for 160,000 years, mate.
Yeah.
And you know, there up to where Tawari is,
Yes,
That's where the biggest Noongar camp was along the river.
because there are springs there, aren't there?
Yeah,
That's a
springs there.
spring.
The hot springs are still there.
They are, but they closed them off in the 1950s. My mother-in-law remembers
no,
that.
they never closed them off.
What were they plugged them, didn't they?
No, they didn't do anything. They're still there, Ren. And the old Noongars and the early Wadjemup even knew about it. Got in there. That's where Noongars consummated their marriages down there.
And I remember stories
The
from
water that from them hot springs goes under the Swan River,
yeah.
comes up at South Perth.
Yeah.
They call South Perth Minditch Mire.
I think there
And
were
that
quite a
means there was
few
illness because
marriages.
They were drinking the sulphur springs and becoming ill.
Oh.
And those sulphur springs were used by whitefellas for different things. And the last one was they used to have them hot baths, their Turkish baths. But in the 80s, when what do they call, what was that bloody men's issue? That
Nowadays, AIDS.
AIDS, when they
Yes,
closed it,
AIDS, yeah.
when they blocked it off. And so
Yeah.
now they uncapped it again because the crocodile benefits.
Oh, right.
He swims in the hot, in those hot
Oh,
springs.
really? Do you have crocodiles over here?
Up north,
Up north.
No,
Salty.
okay.
No,
Up
no,
not
yeah.
down here.
No.
Okay.
up north.
They have shark.
You go up there, you swim.
Yeah.
Your life will last about 5 minutes more. And they'll hunt you. They'll hunt you.
Well,
When they see you, especially in the Ord River or any of them big rivers up there, and if you're fishing and you see a crocodile over there, he'll watch you. If you watch him, if you don't know his culture, he'll kill you. But I was watching this one day, and he started out about 100 metres away at Ord River, and then he'd disappear. And when he came up, I thought to my friend, I said, I think he came up closer.
Getting close.
And he'd go around, he'd swim over there, and then he'd go under, and he'd come up 20 metres closer. And you know what, we got out, we weren't in the water, so we said, come on, let's move. And when he was about from me to the visitor centre away, we walked up to the top, back to the road where the car was parked.
Yeah.
And you know that bloke, he disappeared, we couldn't see him. And where we were standing, he just come out, charged out of the water.
Hoping you were still there.
Yeah. And he just come out of the water at 100 mile an hour. And I said,
Yeah, lucky
there we
you
are. I
escaped.
said, see? I said, he was hunting us the whole time. And they're killers, you know, they're millions of years old. And they're dinosaurs, old as the dinosaurs. Any more questions?
Yeah, just one more. So when you say you've got a whole group of individual Western Australia is like this big, my understanding is that Noongar people is just here from the southwest.
That's right.
So you have no
We
connection.
go from here to Jurien Bay, and then you come back down across through to Coolyanobby, and then from Coolyanobby you head towards Kalgoorlie, you go inside it, Kalgoorlie and Coolgardie to Charles Peak, and then you go down through the Ngaju country, which is Noongar and Wongai people, and you end up down Esperance and all the southwest. That's all Noongar country. And I reckon when the whitefellas first came here, there was 14,000 Noongars. So we were a big group of people then. And we know that the Noongars traverse across the Nullarbor to South Australia because they're our people. They become called Anungas, see? And they there. And so the Noongar people went out to Warburton Ranges and they consider the Noongars as their forefathers. And their language is mixed with the Wongai language and Noongar. And I proved it when I was managing the Kalgoorlie office. I went out to Maurepas because there was the people from the Pilbara whose communities were flooded out. And so I had to look after them for 6 months. And I was taking these old mobs from Kalgoorlie to Maurepas. And when they was talking Noongar. And I said to me, "You mob, I know what you fellas talking about. You don't know nothing," they said. "You're Noongar." I said, you fellas are talking Noongar language. And then I told them what they were talking about. And they said, you are, that's right. And I said, our family, the Collards and the Bennells, were the main people to retain to the Noongar language. And we got the cuts at school, the cane, for talking Noongar language in the school ground. And that's how bad the education was. Now they want us to teach them, the kids back in the grounds again. So it's like that over there in Queensland, ain't it? Same. I reckon Palashik, I think she must be on her way out too, eh?